Thank you very much. Buongiorno a tutti and good afternoon. So delighted to be the last keynote speaker. I hope the coffee is still working. I would like to start thanking ICMA, of course, for first giving us the opportunity to gather. It's very good to see that so many familiar faces are united today, representing the capital market sustainable finance. But it's also a great opportunity for me to share about IFAD, and also more broadly about agriculture and its role within the development universe. So I have 10 minutes to do so, so let's go straight to IFAD. So IFAD is a United Nations agency specialized in agriculture, actually just like our sister agencies, WFP or FAO. We are all based in Rome, and the difference of IFAD between that universe of Rome-based agencies is that we are a development bank. We are a development bank with a long history, 50 years. Next, we will be celebrating our 50th birthday next year, and our financial structure has evolved. We used to be a concessional fund, taking money from member states, providing grants to the poorest countries, to the most vulnerable communities. But now, since 2020, we have a rating. We are the only UN agency with a rating, actually, AA+, and it allows us to blend, to get money, funding from capital market. So there is an evolution of our model, of course. It's 13 sustainable bonds that we have issued since 2022, 1 billion raised, and 27 million rural people reached. So our model has evolved thanks to investors. So when I joined IFAD 1 year ago, I was thinking, it's only on agriculture, so it's restrictive compared to what other development banks are doing. But the reality is that agriculture is at the intersection between so many domains: climate, biodiversity, nutrition, health, and tackling poverty. So the first thing I was thinking is, obviously, agriculture is linked to nutrition, which is absolutely true. We have issued, the excellent funding team has issued a nutrition bond. But it's more than that. It's more than that because we target also specific communities, the smallholder farmers. So we are not another MDB, we are an MDB with a targeted focus mandate. And again, specifically on smallholder farmers. And it's not only nutrition, of course, it's health. Did you know that 60% of the diseases on Earth are zoonotic? So I've learned zoonotic, it means that it goes from animals to human. So that's, for example, another social bond alignment, health purpose of agriculture. And the importance of agriculture is that those diseases depend on how we produce our food. So nutrition, smallholder farmers, health, this is obviously very aligned with social bond principles. But actually, we do more than that, because we don't go to the hills, distribute grains to the people for nutrition. What we are trying to achieve is a targeted market integration. We create value chains. We build growth in the rural communities, and we build resilience. So this is for IFAD's role. But again, agriculture, it's not only social. Food systems are also, as I mentioned, a channel of growth and an enabler of climate adaptation. So I would like to focus on the role of agriculture in climate adaptation. So you probably know very well that statistics. 95% of climate finance go to mitigation. It leaves the small blue part for adaptation, it's 5%. And if you look at agri-food systems, it's 1% of climate finance. So what's the message here? Climate adaptation is underfunded, we know that, but agri-food systems actually account for more than 50% of adaptation needs in developing countries. So adaptation finance is underfunded, agri-food system is underfunded in an underfunded universe. I could even add the geographical approach. Africa requires the majority of adaptation finance, and it receives only 20% of adaptation finance. So that's another gap, and that's another gap because we are lacking investments. Who invest in adaptation in Africa? MDBs and governments themselves. So Africa is paying the adaptation to climate. It's an equivalent estimated to 2.5% of their GDP. So it doesn't sound like a very virtuous economic loop. And private sector in adaptation in Africa, for example, only invest 3% of the adaptation funding. So there is a need, obviously. There is a gap. The gap is huge. Why aren't we investing? We are not investing probably because there is a question of return. But the reality is that if we go concretely on the ground, in the fields, we see that there are some strong economic returns. For $1 invested in adaptation, that's $2 to $10 that academics show can be returned. And the result is actually, the difference is that we measure economic impact, while investors look at what returns. So financial returns compared to economic returns are very different. But the reality is we have examples of very concrete projects with 35% economic returns. This is an example, actually, I saw some KfW, so that's a partnership with KfW, Asian Development Bank. Everybody played its role, blended finance worked well. The coastal climate resilient infrastructure project generated 35% of economic internal rate of return. We were expecting 17%. So that's a major success. And the only thing that we did is that we went in Bangladesh to the Fragile Coast, where farmers used to lose access to markets every monsoon because the roads were closed. So we created resilient roads and markets to keep them connected the year round. And very naturally, it increased largely the productivity. So climate adaptation doesn't lack returns. It just lacks structure to unlock them. And by creating revenue streams, reducing risk, strengthening blended finance, we can probably bridge this gap between the economic returns, which are proven, and the financial returns that could attract some more capital. So agriculture belongs to the social discussion, belongs to the climate adaptation discussion, but it also, obviously, and related to climate adaptation, but not only, it belongs to the transition discussion. So the small-scale farmers that we work with, they are at the beginning of the value chains. So they produce 1/3 of the world's food, and their value chain generates 1/3 of global emissions. This is where everything starts. And they only receive less than 1% of climate finance again. So there are evolutions. We invest. Machinery is being electrified. Methane is being cut in rice and livestock. Deforestation is slowing in some regions. Agroforestry, agroecology are increasing. We are also supporting the decrease of pesticide use, which makes a lot of sense. I make a very quick parenthesis. I've heard the discussions this morning on the Strait of Hormuz on the oil impact, but fertilizers are also very much impacted, and agriculture is suffering. So what is embedded now, will be the result of what's just happened in the Middle East crisis, is that the fertilizers never arrived where they were awaited, and it will create some structural damages in the future. So reducing the dependence on fertilizers and pesticides is also part of the transition. So again, building resilient food systems helps to tackle mitigation and adaptation. So this morning, so what are the next steps? The next steps is that IFAD, everybody is supposed to do its own role. Our role is that we are experts in the rural transformation in developing countries. So what can we do? We hear the need for climate adaptation bonds. So this is something that we are looking at, but also what we are trying to achieve. And sorry, because this morning Swami from Moody's mentioned 60 taxonomies and mentioned that ICMA was working on the 61st. I think we are working on 61st because we are working, for example, on technical assistance and how we can develop taxonomy that reach, again, transition in agriculture in developing countries. So it's very different from green agriculture. It's different of what we can expect in developed countries. It's about transition. So it's very important to have an overarching principle, while we can rely also on local expertise for reporting. So it's another taxonomy, but I think that the number of taxonomy can also make sense to be more laser-focused. So this overarching principle, which is key, is actually ICMA principle. And what we are trying to do is indeed make sure that it's adapted for the rural communities. Thank you very much.